Welcome to Reading, Writing, and Rain. This is a podcast about books, writing, and my personal writer's journey. I am your host, Rhayne Coleman, and you can follow me on Twitter at Coleman Rain. When listening, please feel free to use the hashtag RWRPod to share your thoughts, opinions, and whatnot. We're going to make this a conversation, or if you feel so inclined, you can use the much longer hashtag, which is Reading, Writing, Rain. Either will do, but I'd probably go for the shorter one. Now, you can email me as well at readingwritingrain@gmail.com in case you have a little bit more thoughts than what Twitter would allow. And this is a bi weekly podcast released on Thursdays about none other than me, Rhayne Coleman, and my writer's journey. Now, let's get to this. So, thank you guys for pressing play. Thank you for listening in. And I wanted to start this podcast as a way to, or a place rather, to dump all of my writer and bookish thoughts, opinions, hot takes, unpopular opinions, and the like. So there are so many different places on the internet to consume different writer and bookish media. There's the BookTube, Bookstagram. There are streaming services. There are even other podcasts. And for me, I felt that this would be the best option for me because I love the podcasting medium. I love it. I love it. It is not as visual, of course, as a video, but it is a way to kind of create a relationship with the listener. I hope that we can create this simpatico, create this like relationship here by giving you guys a little peek into my life and my journey. Now, with this, I am figuring things out. I will say that. I will say that again. I am figuring things out. Um, I have been writing for as far back as I can remember. I've been enjoying books and art and all of that since I was a child. And this is just an extension of all of that. Um, I used to write in my 70-page notebook. I have a book, a 70-page notebook with a story that I wrote in the eighth grade. I took that very story and added more detail, more events and whatnot, and like made that into an entirely different version of what I did in the eighth grade. Being a grown person at my big age, and then looking back on that 70-page notebook, like that was a feeling that oh my God, I envy my younger self for even having going through that feeling. And so I hope for so many more experiences like that. But all in all, this podcast is just a place for me to get out my thoughts and to kind of help out if I have any tips or anything that's helping me out or resources or things that I may find or that you guys may find helpful, enjoyable, funny anecdotes, stories and whatnot. That's what this is here for. Now, this is kind of a zero episode where I'll talk a little bit more about myself. Um, Writing and reading have gone hand in hand in my life for years. My mother, I have such clear memories of her bringing me books, and I mean boxes and stacks and bags of books my entire life. I've read so much, there are things that I've forgotten that I'll randomly watching a movie, TV show, driving, or anything, and I'll get this memory of a book I read or a book she had in her hand or something. It could be the smell of something that takes me back. We all have those slight triggers that triggers a memory from before. And when I tell you I've gone through that so many times over the course of my life, I feel like I'm in some sort of a movie, like like a Matrix style something. But yeah, so I've been reading and writing forever. And my mom was really big into the arts. And again, she bought me book after book. It would be even sketchbooks. I can draw a little bit. I do a little bit of illustration. And she would just I don't know, just give me resources. Like I had so many things at my fingertips, and so I was never one who lacked imagination. Like in reading, I feel like strengthened that. And at an early age, I was telling stories, writing stories, creating characters, looking at the stuff I saw on TV and in comic books and in video games, and taking some of those pre-existing characters. I was actually doing fan fiction. I don't want to say before it became fan fiction because one, I'm not that old, and two, I'm not that like narcissistic. I'm sure there were people doing this years and years and years ago. But I was definitely making my own stories before I understood what fan fiction was. So I'll say that. And even to this day, this is something that I do constantly. I'm sure you guys can relate. So, what am I looking forward to? So with this podcast, I'm really looking forward to learning more about myself and learning more about writing and learning more about the art of writing. I did not go to school for writing. I took some writing classes in college. I took some writing classes in a magnet program back in high school. You know, writing has been around, but I've never officially gone out for like an English degree or a creative writing or whatnot. That being said, I'm still learning. And so, what I hope to accomplish with this podcast is educating as much as I am learning, relaying the things that I've learned, the experiences that I've had. Because I am a very big advocate of learning from more than just your mistakes. So, if there's some things that I've done or that I am doing that could be done better, simpler, easier, more effectively, I would hope that you guys would do it better, or that you would learn from my mistake. Oh, you went this route with publishing and that didn't work, so let me try something else. So I'm hoping that that's my biggest takeaway is that you don't only learn from your own mistakes, you learn from mine. And I hope to learn from the you guys listening as well. Um, this is this is something new for me, honestly. If you can't tell by the excitement in my voice, this is something new and I'm excited to take on this journey. So I've always been a writer. Um, that hasn't changed. What has changed is my attitude and the way I address writing, so to speak. So as a kid, that's all I did. I excelled in those humanities, like I was kicking butt and taking names. As a college student, same. As a young 20 something, my interests were more. They were more, not that writing is less, but just more in the sense that I had more on my plate. You know, life gets in the way sometimes. So the writing was there, but it took a back seat, I'll say that. The reading as well. Like I was really into comics, still am. We'll get a little bit of that on this podcast as well. But I was really into comics, so I was picking up some of those, but even that fell off. And, as life does, it gets in the way. And I've always still kind of sketched here and there, be it on a receipt at a job I worked at, or it was, in a sketchbook that I found in an old box or something. And I wrote too, but it was never to the degree that it was when I was younger in adolescence. Now, getting older, finding my way back to the things that made me happy as a kid, to the things that are um, accessible to me, uh, things that I am just pretty much just getting back to basics. That's what it was for me. So, getting older, getting past my early 20s, I got back into like just writing, just sitting down, writing a short story, writing a poem, outlining a story, pantsing a story, and it started to take it a little bit more seriously than I had before. I started looking at it with fresh new eyes. What I'd like to think is that I took a break from writing, an unintentional break, and I got a lot of life experience, which in turn helps me with the writing that I'm doing now. I understand that everything ain't for everybody, but I would like to think that the experiences I've had over the years has really helped to add another dimension to my writing and even to the way I think about writing. Uh, it's just how many times take a shot every time I say writing. How about that? I so I'm going at this writing thing in an entirely different way, in a new way, in a way that I haven't before, and that is something that is a little scary. Honestly, I'm not even going to hold you up because I like what I write about. Take a shot. I like my subject matter. I like the way I think. For the most part, I do enjoy the content that I've put together, my different manuscripts and whatnot. But you know, you are, or we are, our worst critic. And so there's always, or oftentimes, there's this feeling that, ooh, is this really that good? Will anybody want to read this? Is this even that great or whatever? So, I'll, in the coming episodes, we'll get into that as well. Um, and actually, let me take a second here to ask you guys if you've made it this far and you have your own ideas, thoughts, doubts, whatever, and you feel me, for lack of a better term, and understand where I'm coming from, let me know. Please use that hashtag RWRPod and let me know. And if you guys have any questions for me, please. Please use that hashtag or email me, readingwritingrain@gmail.com. Because going forward, though I do have an idea of what I want to discuss, what I want to get out there, what I want to make this space, or what I want to accomplish with this space, I do want this to be a communal space as well. So not just me talking into the ether. I do want to answer your questions, and if I don't have an answer, maybe get someone on here who does. Yeah. So I don't want this to be just one-sided. So use that hashtag and let me know what questions you have about writing. Are you a new writer? How about this? Let's introduce ourselves. If you're listening to this episode and you've gotten this far, use the hashtag RWRPod and just introduce yourself. Let me know, hey, I'm so and so, I'm in Colorado, I'm a new writer, or Billy Bob, Billy Bob badass or something, and I'm in Nevada and I've been writing for decades. Let me know what you guys got going on because I don't want this to just be about myself. Um, yeah, I'd appreciate that. I'd appreciate that. So please do use that hashtag and introduce yourself. Now, what got me into writing? So my mom, I said, she gave me books and writing stuff. I was always like a bookish, nerdy type of kid, but the art of storytelling. So I remember being a kid, enjoying certain shows, cartoons, movies, and whatnot, and thinking, how does this happen? Young enough to think that, or young enough to be unsure about like scripted television. Like, are these people just saying this stuff, or because once I realized or was introduced to bloopers, then I understood. Oh, okay, well, no, maybe not. Maybe this isn't just these people living in their life, and we got a camera in their house. But knowing that that was a career choice, knowing that it was something that I enjoyed and something that you could do for a living, regardless, you got the starving artist label, and that'll be addressed as well. That's been like nagging me, a monkey on my back for so long. But once I realized that this is something that you could just do, I'd read books, comic books, prose books, poems, advertisements, books for school, and I was like, well, someone has to write things. These don't just pop out of thin air. Someone has to do the work to have me reading and writing. And that's it. Like, that's the gist of it because I can't recall the exact moment where it was like, oh, you have to do this. But it's something that's been a part of my life for so long. And there are a lot of academics in my family. There's a lot of people who like really value education and learning and being in charge of the things you consume where you're not just watching television and whatever's on is on, like being more intentional with the things that you watch and the things that you read and the things that you put out there. And so it's always been a part of my space. Writing has always been a character in my life, I'll say that. And I I've never stopped. I'll say that. Even when I stopped, I never stopped. But that is to make a long answer short. I'll say my family. My family is the reason why I've been into writing. Like I have an aunt who, when I was a kid, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, she lived in DC. Now I'm from the Midwest, and there was not a birthday or a holiday that went by where she didn't send like a gift. And with every gift, there was always a book, and there was always a pad of paper and a pack of pens and pencils. And so it's just been a part of my life for as far back as I can remember. Uh, and even to this day, at my big grown age, she's still like, "What you been reading? What's the last book you read? What you currently reading now? What you writing now?" It's just like it could be a lot at times, but it's very much appreciated. I'll say that. So the challenges that I've had with writing, one has been life. I mentioned that earlier. Just life happening, family issues, deaths, hospital stays, moving, just growing up, learning, coming into my own, finding out what is a priority and what's not, what has to take a back seat. Um, Figuring out how to make writing a priority in a space when you don't have a lot of control, when you want to just control something, when you want to feel like you have some semblance of control over your own life. Um, and feeling insecure about writing. Like, oh, could I really be as good as such and such? Do people really want to read this? And then even grammar. I'll tell you that right now. There are a lot of technical things that come with writing that still to this day has me shaking my head or my forehead in my palm, like, oh, I'm dreading this. And I'm older and wiser now, so those things don't get to me in the same way they did maybe 10 years ago. But those have been issues. And also resources. Back in the day, listen to me, back in the day, the resources were there, but with technology and the internet being as big as it is, the resources are like at our fingertips now. Some things, of course, there's paywalls. Some things, you got to do a little bit of digging. But there was a time when it wasn't as accessible as it is now, and so that has been a challenge as well. But I am rising to the occasion, so to speak. So I'm hoping again to chronicle and document some of those challenges here. And I hope you guys share some of your challenges with me as well, so that we can get through all of this messy stuff together. Um, what about, let's see, books that I read? Well, I am a huge nerd. I love me some comics, but prose novels and whatnot. I love me some good old urban romance. Like Eric Jerome Dickey and Elin Harris are like my go-tos. And I don't know if that's going to change the way you guys think of me, but understand like growing up reading certain books that honestly I probably shouldn't have been reading really helped me see what writing could be like. And that's, I remember the first Eric Jerome Dickey book that I can recall like having my hands on was Sister Sister. And I remember it being that yellow cover, those three ladies, 90s hairstyle heads, animated cartoonish looking. And I remember reading that and being like, this is a this is a good story. Like it's a story that I would have told or I would have written myself as a kid because I just like to write. And I'm like, people actually like this is what I aspire to do. This is what I aspire to be. This is a book. This is a book by a black man that is just a good book, a good fiction book. That's the other thing. I am a fiction writer. I love fiction. I love it, love it, love it. That's, I love it. And so, um, Yeah, a good romance, a good drama, and I say urban. I guess that's the shorthand for like black POC. But I love it. I love it. But I that's not all that I read. I just finished two books actually from two ladies. They are white ladies, and they both wrote some phenomenal freaking stories. And I wasn't shocked. I was more or less inspired. And I was like, man, if I am relating to this book, and this is like got some fire under my butt to get the writing, like, what else is out there? Um, yeah, so I love me a good drama, romance, urban story. I love some thrillers and mysteries to the point where, to give you a little bit of TMI, I love Forensic Files. I have to listen to an episode or two of Forensic Files before I go to bed. I know it's probably weird to you guys, but it very much puts me in a calming mood. I think I treat Forensic Files and true crime and mystery thriller suspense things like most people treat like meditation or something. Like it just gets me in a calm space. I'm like, all right, it's time for the wild dreams. So there's that. And how do I consume my books? So I love having my hands on a book, be it a comic, be it a novel, hardcover, paperback, whatever. I love holding on to it. I love smelling the pages. I love hearing the pages turn. I love the sound, all of that. But I also love me a good audiobook. I know there is this discourse around audiobooks, like, are you truly reading or not? And some people think you are, some people think you are. I could care less about that. If I listen to an audiobook, I've read that book. I've still experienced the events in that book. Even though it was read to me, I still control the pace. I still control what I listen to. I still push pause and rewind and run that back. And I've read this book. So you'll get some audiobook commentary as well. And yeah, and then with comics, I do love digital comics. I prefer to have my hand on a book, reading through it, but I am not against or above, reading a digital comic. Like at some point, you're gonna run out of space. So having an audiobook, having an ebook, and having a digital comic is just makes sense. You can't have everything on hand. Yeah, so that's that. And so I'll wrap it up here. I'll wrap it up here. So again, please use that hashtag RWRPod or Reading Writing Rain. Hashtag Reading Writing Rain. And that's RHAYNE Rain for those of you who are listening and maybe didn't really pay attention to the title. I'll have it listed in the show notes, so don't worry about that. But thank you guys. If you made it this far, thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Reading, Writing, and Rain. Um, Thank you guys for taking this journey with me. I hope that you help me make this a community, make this a conversation, interact with me. I'll interact with you. Again, my Twitter handle is at Coleman Rain. Use those hashtags. Email me, readingwritingrain@gmail.com. And let me know your thoughts. If again, what's your writer's description, for lack of a better term. Where are you? Maybe age range. And if how long have you been writing, or have you not written anything yet, and you're just getting prepared, getting started? So I'd love to hear from you. The next episode, I believe we will be discussing a my WIP, my work in progress. So please tune in for that in 2 weeks. And until next time, read and write. And then come back and tell me, Rain. Thanks, you guys.